Humanity has a well-documented obsession with reaching the edges of the map. We push ourselves through freezing death zones and crushing oceanic pressures, driven by a need to stand on the highest, deepest, and most extreme points on the planet. That ambition eventually pushed us entirely out of Earth's atmosphere, leading us to plant flags in the dust of other celestial bodies. Intrigued, which makes this specific piece of geography so jarring. Deep in the remote stretches of the Tibetan Himalayas sits a towering, visually stunning peak that no modern human has ever set foot on. This chart compares Mount Kailash to Mount Everest. Everest tops out at over 29,000 feet and sees hundreds of climbers crowd its summit every year. Kailash sits considerably lower, at 21,778 feet. Yet its peak remains empty. Despite more than a century of extreme mountaineering culture, there are no established base camps on its upper slopes. You won't find fixed ropes, discarded oxygen tanks, or summit flags. Mount Kailash sits as a glaring void in our history of exploration. It forces us to ask exactly what kind of invisible barrier is strong enough to repel the world's most ambitious climbers. The first barrier is physical. The mountain rises in an intimidating, symmetrical geometry. Its four sheer rock faces align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, forming a massive, steep pyramid of stone and ice. When Western expeditions began scouting the Himalayas in the early 20th century, they assessed those vertical faces. In 1926, British mountaineer Hugh Rutledge studied the North Face and returned with a blunt conclusion: the mountain was utterly unclimbable. Decades later, modern equipment made vertical ice climbs possible. In the 1980s, elite mountaineer Reinhold Messner was offered the exclusive opportunity to scale the peak. He refused, famously stating that climbing this peak would be like conquering something in the souls of people. That hesitation eventually became codified into law. In 2001, following an application by a Spanish team to climb the peak, the Chinese government officially banned all summit attempts to preserve the site's sanctity. The mountain's isolation has bred a modern mythology. Travelers share stories of time distortion, rapidly accelerating hair and nail growth, and theories of hollow energy chambers hidden deep within the rock. The summit remains pristine. While adventurers continue to challenge themselves on summits like Everest, the path to the top of Kailash remains a closed door, kept shut by forces far more complex than a sheer rock wall. To understand those forces, we have to look at how the mountain was formed. Millions of years ago, the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates collided. The pressure forced an ancient ocean floor to close, pushing a massive core of molten granite upward toward the sky. Over deep time, sedimentary layers of sand and gravel settled over this hard core. Glacial ice and biting winds eventually chipped away the softer exterior, leaving behind the horizontal, step-like striations that define the mountain's shape. This tectonic uplift turned the mountain into a vital hydrological engine for the entire Asian continent. This topographical map illustrates that output. Mount Kailash sits directly at the center, acting as the origin point for four major waterways: the Indus, the Brahmaputra, the Sutlej, and the Karnali. These rivers flow outward in four different directions, carrying fresh snowmelt to the plains below. They provide drinking water, irrigate crops, and sustain complex ecosystems relied upon by billions of people. These waters allow civilizations to exist, making the mountain a literal fountain of life, a sacred presence at the very center of the continent. This unique and incredible combination of striking geometry and life-sustaining power gave rise to the concept of the axis mundi, the cosmic axis connecting heaven and earth. Four major world religions recognize Kailash as exactly that. For Hindus, the peak is the eternal meditating home of Lord Shiva. Buddhists revere it as the cosmic center and dwelling place of Demchok, representing supreme bliss. Its unique shape and location have even invited global comparisons, with researchers noting precise geographic distances linking Kailash to other ancient monuments like Stonehenge, feeding theories of an invisible worldwide energy grid. But the spiritual weight of the region extends beyond the peak itself. Down at the foot of the mountain lie two massive adjacent lakes that physically manifest the concept of cosmic duality. Lake Mansarovar is fresh, calm, and sun-shaped, a place where pilgrims bathe to purify their sins. Right next to it sits Rakshastal, a saltwater lake shaped like a crescent moon, associated with darkness and turbulent energies. The towering peak, the giving rivers, and the twin lakes create a complete theological microcosm. To the millions who hold these places sacred, standing on the summit would be equivalent to trampling on the center of the universe. While Western mountaineering often seeks to go up a mountain, Eastern spiritual traditions focus on walking around it. One seeks to conquer, the other seeks to honor. This map tracks that spiritual journey. It's a grueling 52-kilometer circular route around the base of the mountain, known as the Kora, or Parikarma. Pilgrims navigate harsh terrain and oxygen-thin altitudes to complete the circuit. Some perform the journey through continuous full-body prostrations, throwing themselves face down onto the rocky ground, standing up, and repeating the motion for weeks until the circle is closed. There is only one widely accepted exception to the rule against summiting. Legend says that in the 11th century, the Tibetan yogi Milarepa reached the top not by climbing the rock face, but by meditating until he was carried to the peak on a beam of sunlight. Milarepa's mythological ascent reinforces the boundary respected by the pilgrims circling below. The peak is reserved strictly for the divine. In a world often defined by reaching the peak, Mount Kailash stands as a monument to the power of restraint. It suggests that the highest form of enlightenment is found in the wisdom to leave a sacred space untouched.